Good evening, I'm Leanne Sanders. Thanks for joining us. Last week during the Yellowknife wildfire evacuations, hundreds, if not thousands of people self-evacuated the capital city by car. But in a surprising move earlier this week, the Northwest Territories government said it would not foot the bill for those who chose to do so. Here's Sarah Connors with that story.
This video shows a trail of cars evacuating from Yellowknife last week. Francis Thrasher's family was one of them. The family of 7 chose to self-evacuate by car to Edmonton on Thursday.
So if we sat and we waited until it was time to go line up to get a plane ticket, we're taking up 7 seats of people that potentially need it, like elders and the disabled and other children.
According to the territorial government's evacuation order, Yellowknife residents were encouraged to leave the capital city by car. But on Monday, a government official said it wasn't planning to reimburse self-evacuees for their travel expenses.
If you self-evacuated on your own means, the expectation will be that you re-enter under your own means as well.
The news came as a shock to Thrasher, who's paid around $2,000 out of pocket.
And now we're seeing that they refuse to provide us assistance to come back home when they are the ones who told us to leave. It's their responsibility, theirs.
I'm appalled at what's happened here.
MLA Katrina Knockleby was also surprised to learn evacuees wouldn't be reimbursed. She's been encouraging evacuees to keep their receipts.
I am clearly in a position where I am upset at what has happened. I am feeling the pain of my constituents and residents across this territory.
At a press conference Tuesday, the territory's finance minister backtracked the previous day's message, emphasizing the territory is dealing with an unprecedented situation.
The programs that we have set up for natural disaster evacuations, of which we've sadly had too many in the last couple of years, they are not designed to deal with the kind of situation that we're in.
Wozniak clarified help is coming, though what that might look like isn't clear yet.
The messaging here is no one is saying no. We're saying let us do some policy work so we can figure out what a good option is.
As for Thrasher, he's hoping for financial assistance like an emergency relief fund. He also wants more transparency for displaced families like his own.
That's our home, and we're going to come back, and you're all going to answer to all of us.
Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
Quebec's highest court has authorized a class action suit that is being led by 2 plaintiffs from the Atikamekw First Nation in Quebec. The 2 plaintiffs say that they both gave birth 5 times, then were allegedly given tubal ligations without consultation or consent. It's not known yet how many Atikamekw First Nations women have allegedly been sterilized in the Quebec healthcare system, but a university study done with statistics starting from the 1980s estimates 22 known cases of possible non-consensual sterilization of First Nations and Inuit women. The allegations in the class action have not yet been proven in court. We want to hear what you think about the stories you've just heard. Here's how to continue the conversation. You can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X, previously Twitter. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. Nunavut plugged into Canada's wider research infrastructure this week as Nunavut Arctic College joined the National Research and Education Network. Trevor Wright highlights why this was very much needed.
Internet at Nunavut's only community college is about to get an upgrade as they join the National Research and Education Network's low orbiting network, bringing higher internet speeds to its facilities and residencies. The first community the network connected to was Iqaluit, where a ribbon-cutting ceremony was held to celebrate its rollout. The next Nunavut Arctic College facilities expected to receive high-speed internet will be Clyde River, Rankin Inlet, Arviat, and Cambridge Bay. This is expected to expand to all communities over the next year.
And in the next year, we're looking to expand this to all our other community learning centers. opportunities.
The
to
government
our
of
post-secondary
Nunavut
students.
welcomed this as good news, saying it will help bridge gaps with its southern Canada counterparts.
Expanding online learning opportunities will help to reduce the digital divide experienced by remote communities and ensure more equitable access to education.
The need for more reliable internet was there even before the pandemic, says Mearns.
But for the community. In the past number of years, we've received a number of questions about the reliability of the networks within our community learning centers.
Older internet satellites often orbit over the equator, giving slower northern connectivity. This will be different, according to the president of Galaxy Broadband, with whom the college has partnered up with.
In a few years, you're going to have more bandwidth than you can even imagine, because a lot of these satellites go over top of the North Pole. So we see a huge opportunity for Nunavut.
Trevor Wright, APTN National News, Iqaluit.
We have to take a short break, but when we come back, we'll hear about the recent meeting of the Métis Nation of Ontario. Back after this. Welcome back. The Métis Nation of Ontario wrapped up its annual General Assembly this past weekend in Ottawa, and the federal government's new Métis Self-Government Act was on the agenda. Métis Nation of Ontario President Margaret joined Dennis Ward earlier this week to talk about the AGA.
President Fro, thanks for being with us. First off, I guess the new Métis Self-Government Act has sparked a lot of discussion and some controversy with First Nations who are now challenging its validity in the courts. How was this piece of legislation discussed at the Assembly?
So, hi, nice to see you again, Dennis. So Bill C-53, which is the bill, it's the piece of Indigenous self-government legislation that accompanies our self-government agreement, as is the case with every self-government agreement in this country's history or modern-day treaty, was something that, as you know, was introduced in June of this year, and it's a necessary tool for Canada to change its laws to recognize not just the Métis Nation of Ontario, but also the Métis Nation of Alberta and the Métis Nation of Saskatchewan, and in particular, our jurisdiction over our core governance areas of citizenship, our leadership selection, how we govern ourselves in terms of our government, in particular financial administration, and taking care of Métis children. So this is something that's been in the works for several years. It actually builds on two self-government agreements, one from June of 2019 and one from earlier this year. And so it's something that our citizens have been very familiar with as we've and again, we've been very public about all of this since about the last 7 years now. We've been negotiating this, and so we've had the opportunity to update our citizens on the status of the bill, and we're very excited to see it move forward through the legislative process.
I guess, are there concerns with litigation or possible litigation?
There are some matters that are before the courts, and I can't comment on those, Dennis.
Okay, it was obviously a busy assembly for yourselves. Can you also give us an update on the Métis Citizenship Registry? Several months ago, members voted to revoke the membership of thousands of individuals. Can you tell us what happened with this issue at the Assembly?
Yeah, so, you know, one of the things that we did as we moved forward in negotiating those self-government agreements, one of the very first things that we did as a Métis government was to say, let's make sure we have absolute clarity on who we represent. We conducted an independent third-party review of our citizenship registry, which told us what we knew in terms of who we represent, those communities. But it also flagged that there were just over 5,000 citizenship files out of over 31,000 that had incomplete files. So over the course of the last 30 years, we celebrated 30 years at our assembly this year. Over the course of the last 30 years, that registry has gone from zero support to where we are today. We've built it, as have other Métis governments, including shifting to a national definition that the Métis Nation of Ontario, along with all of the other Métis governments, developed together in 2002 before we headed to the Supreme Court of Canada in the Pally case to argue that. And so, with the changing definition, with a shift in terms of how well we were able to resource our registry, we knew coming out of that independent review that we've recently conducted that we had some legacy issues, including just over 5,000 citizenship files that were incomplete. We took that information. We've published all of this information. I think probably the most transparent Indigenous government action on this type of a review. We took the information out to our citizens. We issued a What We Heard report based on the engagement over the course of a year with our citizens. And coming out of that What We Heard report a year ago, we took it to our assembly, our annual General Assembly, which is the highest authority within our unique Métis government. And the Assembly gave us direction to move forward with the province-wide plebiscite, which we did over the course of this last winter. We had well over 8,000 citizens participate, and they gave a very strong response to say, for those citizens that have incomplete files, it's one of the things that we heard loud and clear from our citizens through that year-long engagement through the plebiscite was, we need to be able to ensure that we can guarantee that every single citizen is in fact a rights-bearing Métis person under Section 35 of the Constitution Act. So we received direction to move forward with a special assembly, which we did this past June, and we gave direction to in fact implement that direction, that democratic will of our citizens that we received through the province-wide plebiscite, to actually remove those individuals. So those individuals with incomplete files, we've followed through from that assembly this this summer to issue the notices to them. Of course, we put in place an appeals process. We wanted to make sure, as we have over the course of this entire process, to ensure that it's very fair and transparent. And so that is that's in process right now.
Well, President Fro, congrats on all of those anniversaries. Marcy, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Dennis. Merci.
It's only been a matter of weeks since the North American Indigenous Summer Games wrapped up. Now, the Nova Scotia Migma Summer Games are in full swing. Hosted by the Millbrook Nation, they're expected to draw thousands of athletes and spectators. Angel Moore reports.
I guess we're gonna win for you guys. We'll win for you guys.
That's Team Geskabigia, U12 softball team, competing at the Migma Summer Games held in the Millbrook Nation. Fans filled the bleachers at the Millbrook ball field to watch Team Millbrook and Team Geskabigia. Geskabigia is located on the south shore of the Gaspé Peninsula, Quebec. With 1 win and 1 loss, Leighton Gideon, team captain, says,
"It feels great, like being in the summer games and like playing against other teams, like other communities."
The Mi'kmaq Summer Games were last held in Millbrook Nation 7 years ago. The games keep growing, with more than 2,000 athletes participating from Quebec, New Brunswick, and PEI, with over 20 sporting events such as baseball, lacrosse, and archery. Athletes are all ages and all levels, are an inspiration to the next generation. Bob Glode, chief of the Millbrook Nation, says,
individuals that normally don't compete at the larger scales, like with NEG and nationals and provincials, but we also have some of those athletes that are here that participate at more of the elite levels. Our kids that are under 18. So it's also good to have them in the community competing with their community members and friends, and also with other communities as well.
Entertainment and medal ceremonies are held every night at the powwow grounds, and the games end this Sunday. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Millbrook, Mi'kmaq Nation.
Another quick break, but when we come back, we'll continue our look at the origins of the Jingle Dress. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Stephanie Fleury shared with us this calming sunset over the Musqueam Reserve located in central Alberta. Thanks for watching, Stephanie, and for contributing to our photo of the day. If you want to be our next photo of the day, send your photos to share@aptn.ca. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting out on the East Coast, St. John's will be 18, Fredericton and Halifax 25. Kuujjuaq 14 tomorrow, while Happy Valley Goose Bay 16. Quebec, Chibougamau will be 23. In Ontario, Toronto we're looking at 24 tomorrow, London and Windsor 30. Northern Ontario, Wawa 21, Thunder Bay 24. Northern Manitoba, Churchill 14 tomorrow, Puckatawagan 24. Further south, Dauphin 26 and Winnipeg 26. In Saskatchewan, Yorkton will be 23, North Battleford 21. Further north, Uranium City is 22 tomorrow, and Buffalo Narrows 20. Heading into northern Alberta, high level will be 25 and Grand Prairie 21. In the south, Red Deer 17 and Lethbridge and Medicine Hat 23. In BC, Quesnel at 23 tomorrow and Campbell River 24. Northern BC, Fort Nelson 27 tomorrow and Prince Rupert 18. Old Crow will be 12 and Watson Lake and Whitehorse 24. In the Northwest Territories, Wrigley will be 25 and Norman Wells 19. Inuvik 11 and Colville Lake 15. Cambridge Bay 12, Baker Lake 15 and Arviat 18. And Resolute will be 1 tomorrow and Iqaluit 8. The Jingle Dress and Dance may have started in northwestern Ontario, but as originator Maggie White's family has seen, it soon became a popular event at powwows across the nations. Here's part 3 of our look at the dress's origins and spread.
Isabel White has seen the rise of the Jingle Dress firsthand, starting with watching her Kokompe making the cones by hand.
That was her passion. Making jingle dresses. There's at least 300 cones, at least 300. That's incredible. And those cones were done by hand, one by hand. And I remember my grandmother pounding them. I could hear it now, how she pounded those jingles one by hand. On the floor, she sat on the floor. She felt really proud. And it gave her life. It gave her life, gave her energy. And this one was...
She says she was one of the original 4 women to travel powwow in the 1970s with Maggie White and the Whitefish Bay Singers, who brought the dress and the dance with them.
And Maggie was the mother of the Whitefish Bay Singers. So, and I was one of the Whitefish Bay Singers, and Evelyn was. So we're the ones traveling, eh? So we're the ones, I guess, promoting the Jingle Dress or make it known. I don't know how to call it, but because we were traveling with them.
She remembers how powwows didn't know what category to put them in.
I remember one place in Wikwamikong. We're the only ones Jingle Dress. These younger people, they come and look at our jingles and they even touch them like, what's that?
Really?
Mm-hmm.
When was that?
That was 42 years ago. There was no category on Jingle Dress. But now you see, like this powwow. I couldn't believe how my Jingle Dress is. It's like that everywhere.
Following dancing Jingle for the first time in her home community during the 50th anniversary, Nokami'kwaning's Willow Crow went to the Kenora's Lake of the Woods Museum to pay respect and to learn more.
My name is Brady Murray, and I work here at Plaintiffs. And these are some of the jingle dresses we have in our collection. These ones are quite old. We suspect they're from around the 1940s. Yeah. So in 2019, we had an exhibit on the jingle dress, featuring many of the dancers from Whitefish Bay. So this is the exhibit catalog to be able to help kind of share that story.
In 2019, the Kenora exhibit showcased jingle dresses and the region's origin story, along with photography with now Toronto Photo Laureate Nadia Quandabins, who is from the region.
It was excellent. Colorful and bright, and there was audio visual, the sound of jingles, just, it was great summers with it. Really
I came in for the exhibit actually, before I started dancing, because I only started dancing August of last year.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and just this past weekend I was able to dance in my home community in N.W.T for the first time ever. Yeah, it was so amazing.
The director shares how the region has been an international hub of inquiry around the origin of the jingle dress.
We're just really kind of getting some momentum, and the pandemic hit and everything else, but we still do get calls from time to time, people Googling jingle dresses. And I got a call from a lady in Washington, D.C., and she was wondering about jingle dresses and sort of wanted to know more, and she was Googling and found the exhibit. And so the reason why she was very interested is because she has a son who's special needs and really enjoys the sound of the jingles and really enjoys the sound of hearing the powwow and being involved. And she was wondering if we'd send her more information. I said, well, I can send you the exhibit catalog, but it's not really my story to tell. But I can send you these resources. I can send you information and kind of other places to look. And so it's really neat that people are reaching out to us, and it's really neat that we can help kind of share that information as well.
Oh, I could cry. That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Do you think about anything when you hear the jingles?
When I hear the jingles? Yeah, I think about like rattles, like how they're used in ceremony, like to cleanse people's energies, but also the space.
The final two parts of our series run through tomorrow and Friday. A future moose hunter was recently recorded practicing his moose call with his grandpa. Easton Head Nepope is 7 months old. Grandpa Fabian Head, who's the chief of Red Earth Cree Nation in Saskatchewan, says this little guy's dad got his first moose at the age of 16 and hopes for Easton to learn as well. He's just too cute with those chubby cheeks. For more of APTN stories, head over to aptnnews.ca. That's all we have for you tonight. Thanks for watching.